Hello, everybody. It's Philip Lee, and I'm returning with another episode of Civil War Chat. It is now February 24th, Wednesday, and February 24th, 2021. So click on the notification bell in the upper right if you'd like to be notified of future episodes. So right now, what I'm going to do, today's video is going to be about a West Point historian on Ulysses Grant and Robert E. Lee. After teaching military history at West Point for many years, retired General Ty Seidule is on a mission to discredit, if not assassinate, the character of Robert E. Lee. Since he was a graduate of Washington and Lee, Seidule also appears to be among those who want the institution to drop the Lee name. The W&L administration, for example, recently sponsored an internet presentation by Seidule to the faculty, students, and alumni. I'll put a link to a similar presentation that Seidule made earlier this month below. Although I'll be doing more work on Seidule in the days ahead, today's video is to underscore his erroneous assumption that anyone who disagrees with him is a benighted so-called lost causer. That is common throughout his lectures. He makes that claim frequently, and by implication and explicitly throughout his lectures. According to Seidule, the lost cause myth is an invention of postbellum Southerners and encompasses 2 points among others. 1, General Grant was a butcher, and 2, Southern armies lost because they were overwhelmed by superior resources. He says both of those assertions are bunk, but let's look at them. First, it was not postbellum Southerners that labeled General Grant a butcher. It was Northerners themselves as they reacted to the general's large losses in May and early June of 1864, when Grant was first fighting against Lee. Earlier, he had met lesser commanders in the Western theaters. But in May and early June of 1864, he ran up against Lee, and it was a different story. Grant began his 40-day campaign with an approximate 2-to-1 numerical advantage. He had 124,000 troops compared to 66,000 for Lee. At the end, Grant had suffered 55,000 casualties, which was also about twice those of Lee. Losses for the two sides during the battles of Wilderness, Spotsylvania, and Cold Harbor, where Grant was in charge of the Yankees and Lee was in charge of the rebels, correspond closely to the federal disasters at Second Bull Run, Chancellorsville, and Fredericksburg, where Seidule himself characterizes the commanders, the Union commanders in those battles, as, well, functional idiots. Second, Seidule's interpretation of the theory that Confederates lost the war because they were overwhelmed by superior resources as a mere lost cause poppycock is put to lie by Grant himself. On July 22nd, 1865, he wrote War Secretary Edwin Stanton to explain how he, Grant, won the war. Quote, "The resources of the enemy and his numerical strength were far inferior to ours. I therefore determined to hammer continuously against the armed forces of the enemy and his resources, until by mere attrition, if in no other way, there should be nothing left of him but submission, or nothing left to him but submission." Close quote. Additionally, at best, Seidule makes a false equivalency between the causes of the war and the causes of secession for the first 7 cotton states, which incidentally did not include Virginia. They are not the same, the false equivalency of why the war and why secession. That's a false equivalency between the two that Seidule makes. They are not the same, because there would have been no war if the cotton states had been allowed to leave in peace. By relying upon primary sources, historian Jack Davis concludes, quote, "The widespread Northern myth that the Confederates went to the battlefield to perpetuate slavery is just that, a myth. Their letters and diaries in the tens of thousands reveal again and again they fought and died because their southern homeland was invaded, and their natural instinct was to protect home and hearth." Finally, Seidule reveals his conclusions are dominated by a pious cause mythology that argues the North fought to to prevent the spread of slavery into the federal territories. That is pious cause mythology. In reality, the North fought to quarantine blacks in the South. In 1854, Abraham Lincoln admitted as much, quote, "The whole nation is interested that the best use shall be made of these Western federal territories. We want them for the homes of free white people. This they cannot be if slavery be planted among them." Close quote. Pious cause mythologists are blind to the fact that every state, save one, that gained statehood after Texas in 1845 came into the Union when only about 1% of their respective populations were black. The one exception, right up to Alaska and Hawaii during my lifetime, was West Virginia, which joined as a slave state when Lincoln was president. I'm targeting a new short form, professionally produced video at refuting Seidul's other claims in order to keep, my objective is to keep the Lee name in his namesake university. If cancel culture can strike Lee's name from W&L, Southern history will likely ever after be corrupted with lies and distortions from the cultural elite, like Seidule, aimed at demonizing the region's white ancestors. If you would like to support the video's production, that is the professional video that I plan to be working on, please make tax-deductible donations to the Abbeville Institute. To those of you that are able to donate $700 or more each, your help is vital. Please contact me directly at Phil, P-H-I-L _Lee, L-E-I-G-H, at me.com. Okay, that's our show for today. It's a brief one because this is a battle that I think has to be fought. We've got to fight for Lee at Washington and Lee. No man is more revered in the history of the South, in my opinion, than Lee. And if he is taken off of the name of Washington Lee, where he contributed so much to the legacy, well, I've had my say on that. Okay, listen, thank you for watching, and until next time, this is Phil Lee.